Welcome to Maverick University, an educational series featuring ministry modules taught by ministry-minded Christians and designed to help Christians become more effective in their service for Christ. Welcome to another edition of Maverick University. I'm your host, David Hallberg. Joining me today is Brother Sergio Gonzalez. Brother Sergio is a church member at Northwest Bible Baptist Church and also a bus captain, bus worker. And Brother Sergio is joining me for several conversations about the bus ministry. You can view other videos of our conversations in the description below. Thanks for joining us, Brother Gonzalez.
Thank you.
We're going to continue our conversation. In our previous video, we talked about basically your testimony, your history, how you were reached by the bus ministry, and how it even went into adulthood. And we basically paused right when you and your wife started getting involved in the bus ministry. You talked about how, as a teenager, your bus captain had asked you to come along with him, go soul winning with him, show him where your friends lived, recruit other riders for the bus ministry. And through that, you became more active in visiting and also, I imagine, even running a bus program probably in your teen years. And then as soon as you got married, then that just kind of gravitated, for you and your wife to be both involved in that. So talk to me about your family involvement, and even today, you and your wife and your kids all involved in the bus ministry. So talk to me about the early years. You and your wife in the bus ministry, what church were you serving in what capacity? What were you doing? Was there a learning curve for you in those early years? Some lessons we learned for your wife as well.
Well, we were at Maplewood Bible Baptist Church in Chicago, Illinois, and Pastor Bob Heath, he asked us to help us out on the bus route, and we didn't have any kids at that moment. We didn't have any kids, so it was just me and my wife helping out on the bus route. And my wife found out she was pregnant, and I told my wife, we can't stop what we're doing just for our kids. I'm like, we can't. We got to keep serving God. We have to keep doing what we're doing. And at first she didn't get it. This was new to her. She didn't know. But she went with it. And my daughter was born, and all of my kids, Michael, my daughter Ileana, who's going to be 21, my son Michael, and my son Sammy, every single one of them, we put a car seat, and we put them right in the back of the bus, right in the back seat, not in the back of the bus, but right behind me when I'm driving.
Yeah.
And they rode the bus with us as a little baby till right now. Every single one of them, Michael, Illy, and Sammy, every single one of them. And that's because we decided that we were not going to stop riding the bus route. And it feels good that my wife was on board with me with the whole entire time, and it was pretty neat. Illy, Mikey, and Sammy. Every single one of them. And it's kind of hard to lug that whole car seat around and move it back in here, especially when it gets cold. So we did it. Every single one. We're not going to stop, except when we moved to Florida. That's not hard over there because it was hot the whole entire time. That was Sammy. So Sammy I think he was the lucky one. He had beautiful weather in the bus route.
Well, let's explore that topic of your wife supporting you in the ministry and what you were doing. Obviously, having your wife's support is very liberating.
Yes.
Allows you freedom.
Yes.
Has there been a time where she threw up, some red lights and?
Yes. There was one.
What were some ways that you resolved some of
There
those
was one
issues?
time where we were out visiting, just my wife and I, and they assigned us a family, and I would always go up and wake them up and get them ready, and I would tell my wife, honey, just stay in the car. I don't want you to go in there. Just stay in the car. So she finally got fed up, and she's like, why do you take so long? I'm going to go up with you. And I told her, Terry, you can go with me, but promise me, whatever you do, because women are very emotional, so promise me, whatever you do not cry, do not do anything. Just do what you have to do, and let's just do it. So she went up the stairs with me, and I told her, Terry, these kids want to come to church, but as soon as she opened the door, you seen a trash can of beer bottles and beer cans all over the floor. You see a mattress on the floor, and the kids were sleeping in the mattress. So I told her, Terry, what I do every week, I come and I try to get these kids dressed because they want to come to church. I'm like, but look at the filth. And they had a newborn baby that was crawling, and he was crawling through the filth. Through all the garbage. And my wife started choking up, and I looked at her and was like, Terry, stop, don't cry. Whatever you do, do not cry. I'm like, we don't want these kids, just do not cry. And so we got all three of the kids dressed up. My wife combed their hair and everything else, because they wanted to come to church. But in the I would say filth, the situation that we're in. The dad was a drunk. I mean, it just broke her heart. And so we got in the car with them, and my wife's like, you know, now I know why you took such a long time in there. I'm like, yeah, Terry, these kids want to come to church, but they have it hard. I told them, but you know what? I told them, now you know what they go through. So she said, you know what? I'm convinced, so we have to do this every week. So that's what changed her to get in the bus ministry, just because of that family. And those kids had it hard. But, you know, I think that was her breaking point, where she saw that family. She said, you know what? No, we got to keep doing this, just not for our sakes, but for the kids. But not only that, we learned. We learned a lot off that situation, because, you know, sometimes we, as Americans, we're spoiled.
Oh, sure.
And then we're like, you know, we have it all, but then you go to this house, they have nothing. It kind of humbles you. You're like, you know what? Thank you, God, for everything you've done for me.
It takes your breath away sometimes when, to me, even today, I find it hard to believe that people can be hungry and, you know, malnourished. I mean, we've got so much food, you know, just coming out of our ears. I mean, just what you find in a dumpster would feed a family. And I mean, grocery stores, stuff expire, they get rid of it, they donate or whatever. But then there are families that are just absolutely destitute. It's unbelievable.
Well, you know, a few weeks ago we had the mini bus conference here at the college, and I told all the college students that there's some things worse than COVID. You know, people, we're going through this COVID right now. Some of these kids, I'm like, there are things out there worse than COVID, and a lot of them are looking at me, it's like, oh, Brother Sergio, what's worse than COVID? I'm like, you don't understand. Some of these kids are afraid of their drunk dad coming home and beating them. To them, that's worse than COVID-19. You know, some of these kids won't have food in their house. Some of these kids don't, you know, they just don't have a mom and dad. Their situations are just, they're worse than COVID, you know. And so COVID is something, you know, that kind of woke up a lot of Christians. And I told my wife, I'm like, some of these people have it worse than COVID-19, you know. And just imagine that, coming home and, you know, your dad comes home drunk and you got to hide underneath the bed, because we have a bus kid like that. He hears his dad open the door and he right away hides underneath the bed, because he's afraid that his dad might beat him. So that's, to me, he would tell me, he's like, I'm afraid of that more than anything in the world. So, you know, those are some experiences on the bus ride that you're like, we have to keep serving.
Well, it'll change anybody's life. Rather than just seeing a face that rides the bus, you're seeing their backstory and their situation, and you appreciate, you know, any kid that, you know, wants to serve God. And, you know, you can't help but have a desire to go out of your way to help those kind of people. Let's talk about some of the advantages of working as a family on a bus route. And obviously, the opposite side of that, you know, seesaw, if you will, is some sacrifices that have to be made. Let's just talk reality here.
You know, a lot of people ask me that. You know, I could honestly say in front of God that I have never in my whole entire life have had a hard time waking up Mikey, Sammy, and Lily for the bus ride on Saturday or Sunday. They're ready to go on Saturday and they're ready to go on Sunday. I have never forced them. Said, hey, I have never done that. Sometimes they're dressed before I am. You know, so they see their dad and they see how the bus ministry works, and sometimes they're just ready before I am. And it's kind of amazing, because, you know, people are like, oh, how do you get them? I'm like, no, I've never, ever, and my wife could tell you too, we've never had a hard time waking up Michael or Sammy or Illy to get on the bus Saturday or Sunday. We've never had that. We never had that. Michael and Sammy and Illy have always been ready to go. And, you know, it's kind of hard, especially when it's 20 degrees below zero. I don't want to go. I don't want to go on the bus. And their kids are like, okay, they're dressed and ready to go. They're waiting. Sometimes they're waiting for me. They're like, come on, Dad, we got to go. So it's something preacher mentioned many years ago when he was preaching. He said the family that serves together stays together. And I think that's very important. The family that does serve together stays together.
So you end up having a closer knit family because of the service you do together, and you have the common goal with each other. And obviously, there's things that a family has to forego or give up, activities and things like that. Has there ever been a time where, you're like, oh man, we'd love to do this, but...
you know, in-laws sometimes are the best and sometimes the worst in Christian life, you know. In-laws, they have to have, especially Spanish folks, they have to have their parties on Sundays. And they've known from the beginning that we don't go to their parties on Sunday, because that's our bus day. So now, in the beginning, they kept hounding us and, you know, criticizing, but now they already accepted it. They were like, you know what, they can't come because they do their bus on Sunday morning and Sunday afternoon, and they do things on Saturday. So our in-laws would always, why do you have to be there all day Sunday? Why do you have to do this for them? Why do you have to do? That was the beginning, but now that we've done it for so long, now they don't even ask. They know it's Sunday. We don't do anything. Sunday is the bus route, church, eat dinner, and go home, rest for maybe an hour and a half, back to church Sunday night.
So as a unit, your family has this weekend schedule.
Yeah, that's how
pretty down.
We play. Actually, it's just a given. We just don't even we don't do anything. We're like, this is the bus route. We don't plan any events. We don't on vacation. We plan church, bus route, and that's all we do.
Well, I've heard it preached and mentioned before and taught that if your kids come up to you and ask you on a Sunday morning, are we going to church today?
Oh, yeah.
Then you've got some consistency problems in your life.
Yes.
And I guess the same thing is true in any aspect of your Christian life, if it's a particular ministry you're involved in. If your kids come up to you and ask you, are we participating this week in it? Then you really know that, man,
something's wrong.
Yeah, we haven't been
Something's
as
wrong.
faithful to this as we should be.
Something's wrong, yeah.
So you guys are just absolutely plugged in. Well, let's explore each of your kids, I suppose. What are some of the highlights in your, as a father watching your kids, as a little baby in a baby carriage, on the bus, and growing up through maybe their elementary years, junior high, high school years?
Well, each one of my kids is different. Each one, Ellie's more a free thinker on her own, and she's more of a competition. Michael's more of a caring heart. He cares more and does things. And Sammy is more like Sammy's different. I'm still trying to figure out Sammy. He's still trying, but each one of the kids. So I have to be careful and treat each one differently. I can't tell Michael to do things that Ellie does, and Ellie does. I got to treat him differently. I got to give him different goals. Each one of them. It's not fair for me to give Ellie a goal and then the same goal that I give Ellie to give to Sammy. He's younger, so I got to treat each one differently. But I make sure that I always involve him in the bus ministry. I ask him, every Saturday, how did you go today, Ellie? How did it go, Michael? How many people did you sign up? How many people did you witness to? How many? And even Sammy, I told Sammy, hey Sammy, see those kids out there? Go give flyers out to those kids. But Dad, I don't know how to witness to them. It's okay. I didn't ask you to witness to them. Go just give them a flyer. So he goes out there and does flyers. So each one of my kids. But I do have a funny story for Michael. One time we were at an area picking up like 10 or 15 kids, and this lady comes around the corner and is like, one of your kids, one of our bus kids, is throwing rocks at the geese and hit them and is kicking them and doing all bad things. I'm like, oh, great, which one of my bus kids is it? So I go out there, and I was ready to scold him. I was angry because this lady was angry, and it gives the church a bad name. Yeah. And I go out there, and it's Michael. It's Michael. I'm like, Michael. I told him, Michael, what are you doing? He's like, I hate geese. I want to kill them. I'm like, but no, Michael, there's this lady, Michael. No, we're in the church. It's got our name in it, Northwest Bible Baptist Church. Leave the geese alone. Get it in the bus. But it kind of made me chuckle because I was like, here I'm thinking it's a bus kid. It's not a bus kid. It's my own son, So I'm like, kids are kids, and sometimes they're bad, But yeah, and Sammy and Lily, they're the same thing. I treat each one of my kids differently. I don't give them the same goals, because it's really unfair for Sammy and Michael and Neely to give them the same goals. But I do want them involved in the ministry.
So at what point, take, Ileana, she's your oldest, as an example. At what point did you start training her to pass out tracts? Was it elementary age, even younger?
No, at church, this is why it's so wonderful being at an independent fundamental Baptist church, because you know what? They do a great job in training the kids to give out the gospel. There's so many churches, they teach them, this program and this program here and this program here. Our church, Northwest, teaches our kids to serve, give out the gospel, give this out. It's not always about a program or about having fun. It's about, like Brother Joel does a good, wonderful job. He teaches the teenagers how to serve, how to help other people. So Illy's learned that at a young age from the different churches that we've been, how to serve and give out tracts, and so does Michael and Sammy now.
What about the first time she was able to give the gospel to somebody? Was that something that you trained her to do, or maybe in the youth group?
No. See, here's the thing is that I try to get myself out of the picture. If somebody could help out my daughter better than I can, go ahead, man. Somebody could help out Michael. I'm not one of those dads that, it's always have to be me to help him out. No, if there's somebody in their life that could help him out, okay, go help him out, it's fine. So Illy led her first person in Christ in Florida with one of her teachers. They went out and she led him to the Lord. And Michael here with, I think it was Brother Joe, they went out and, I think it was Brother Walker. With Brother Walker, he led us. Sammy's still too young, but it was not with me. It was not with me at all. So, they did it on their own, which I'm really glad, because now it shows me that they're independent, they could do it on their own.
Yeah.
And they don't need dad to hold their hand and say, you need to do this. They did it on their own.
So what kind of tasks do you give your family on the bus route? Obviously, you're the driver.
Oh, no.
So,
Now,
right?
yeah, I am the driver. Lately, I'm a slacker. I don't do anything. I just drive my bus, and Michael and Neely are old enough where they delegate. But in the beginning, it was hard.
Yeah.
It was hard because I had to do everything. And it's kind of hard to run the program and drive at the same time. So
You did?
yeah, I had to.
Wow.
There was one time, actually, it was here. One time it was here at Northwest Bible Baptist Church. All my workers just had to go home for Christmas break.
Oh,
And it
yeah,
was just
one of those lonely Sundays.
Lonely Sunday. It was just me, my wife, my daughter, Michael, and Sammy, and one worker, Angela Snyder. And we're like, oh, it's cold. No one's gonna show up. Next thing you know, we open the door. 5 kids come in, 7 comes in, 10 kids come in. I'm like, Terry, how are we gonna do this, man? We're short in workers. I'm like, and all these kids are coming to church. But we did it, So they already know what to do. Michael and Sammy, they've been in it for a while. They know what to do, and Ellie, they know what to do. But I always give them a task what they have to do on Saturday. But mostly they know how to do it because they learn from other bus captains and from other bus workers.
Yeah. Is there a particular memory that you have of your family serving in the bus ministry? Maybe it was a Saturday out soul winning, or maybe it was a particular Sunday that kind of just sticks out in your mind where, man, this was an unbelievable family
Oh yeah,
effort
yeah,
to get
and this is I blame this one on Brother Roberto. Brother Roberto had the idea of going to the zoo a few years ago, and he's like, we got to go to the Lincoln Park Zoo. And we're like, oh, that's an hour away, and in traffic, an hour back. It's like, okay, so we went, and we had like over 100, 2 buses on that. We had over 100, and I remember on the way home after everything was done, we were Sunday night, we're driving home, just me, my wife, and the kids. And we had that tired feeling about us. But that real good tired, you're like, man, today was an awesome Sunday. I mean, awesome. And the van was just quiet. I mean, our car was just quiet. Nobody said anything. We just knew that it was a good day that God worked in our lives. I mean, one of those, I don't know if you ever had those days where you're just tired and you knew God did it. You didn't do nothing. God did it all. And it was that day we went to the zoo. I still remember that. It was wonderful.
It's pretty awesome when you can just show up and just watch what happens.
Yes.
And try to keep up.
I felt like I was just there for the ride. I mean,
Yeah.
I just felt like God was dealing, and I was just there for the ride, and it was wonderful. I mean, many people got saved, and like I said, we had 2 buses and a van. We had over 100 on that day.
Now, looking to the future with you, your wife, and your kids, and things like that, have your kids expressed a long-term interest in serving in the bus ministry? And if they have, what have they mentioned is some of the contributing factors for that?
We'll start off with Illy. Illy just wants to be serving in the bus ministry. She's still trying to figure out her life. She's still trying to figure out, but she told me the other day, Dad, I'm not going to give up the bus ministry. I'm just not. I'm going to keep helping you guys out. So I told her, okay, honey, as long as you're in church and serving God, that's all I worry about, honey. You want to do whatever you do in life, it's fine, but you need to be in church and serving God. And she said, okay, I will, and she has. Michael was called to preach, so he's here, and Michael said, Dad, you don't need no more co-captains. I'll be your co-captain. I'm like, okay, Michael, do it. Then Sammy said, Dad, when Michael leaves, he already has his little timetable. He's like, when Michael leaves, I'll be 16 years old. I'll be your next co-captain. I'm like, okay, we got it set. We're like, I don't have to worry about co-captain for 15 years.
Perfect.
So that was pretty neat. I don't know if that's going to happen, but that's what they said.
Oh,
So Michael said, Illy from Italy, Michael and Sammy.
So the family that serves together
stays together.
Amen. Thanks so much, Brother Gonzalez, for
Thank
talking
you.
to us about your family involvement in the bus ministry. And you can see other conversations that I have with Brother Gonzalez about the bus ministry. There'll be links in the description below. Thank you so much for watching.